Immigration has divided America for generations. Some believe strict immigration enforcement is simply about protecting borders, national security, and the rule of law. Others argue that race, ethnicity, and fear of outsiders have consistently shaped who America welcomes and who it rejects. Is today's immigration debate really about illegal immigration, or is it about who America believes belong here? Stay tuned.
Are you ready for some controversy? Yeah. Are you ready for some fun? Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready for some laughs? Yeah. Let's get unfiltered with Cycle 4081.
Good evening, everyone. So today's topic is going to be about immigration policy and whether it's about security or racism and xenophobia. So throughout U.S. history, immigration laws have changed dramatically from the Chinese Exclusion Act to quotas favoring Northern Europeans, and we know what that's about, to Japanese internment, to debates over asylum seekers, border walls, travel bans, and refugee admissions. The question isn't whether America has the right to secure its borders. Every sovereign nation does. The real question is whether that power has always been applied equally, or whether race and nationality have influenced immigration policy more than many Americans want to admit. So, kick it off. The first question I have for you guys is, can immigration policy ever be completely separated from race? Let me go with you, Paul, first.
Can immigration policy ever be separated from race? Not in this country.
Okay. Why do you say not in this country?
First of all, we're talking about the United States of America. Just saying that word United States in this country is blasphemous. And the reason why I say immigration policy can never be separated from race, because the policy is built from racism.
Okay.
It's the foundation is racist.
Well, no arguments there. So it's kind of ironic, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. The founding principles and all of the type stuff. And I know we mentioned earlier about money and good intentions. But Dimitri, do you think the immigration policy here in the U.S. could ever be completely separated from race?
No.
Why do you say so?
No, because there's too much going on with us as Black Americans and other cultural Americans. I'll give you an example. The race is tagged on to the tax, them not paying taxes and stuff like that. To me, that alone, it's not gonna be separated with the race, because it's too much. You know what I mean? That it holds.
Okay.
So
I'm going to agree with both of you. And the reason why I'm going to say it is because the power structure here in the United States, if you challenge the power structure and it causes fear of losing that power structure, fear of losing that advantage, they're going to buck immigration, which can actually accelerate that. So I definitely agree with that, and I think that's what we're seeing today. But my question, again, why do you think immigrants from some countries seem to generate more political outrage than the others? Example, immigrants from Mexico, the biggest one. Why do you think they generate more?
Right.
And there's a logical reason, I think, but why do you think they generate more political outrage than the others?
Okay. Follow off what I just said. I don't want to be the one to.
I'll say it. I'll say it.
Say it.
Yeah, you say it.
Hey, listen. Reason why there's more political outrage from other countries, because those countries have brown and black skin. Okay. Now, when Ukraine was coming over here, When the South Afrikaners were coming over here, they was laying down the red carpet. When European immigrants was coming over here, they was greeted warmly. They was given resources. They was given that. When immigrants from Haiti, Cuba, Mexico, all the African nations came over here, just like Dimitri said, the narrative was changed. They're freeloaders. They're taking jobs away.
They're eating your cats and dogs.
They're eating your cats and dogs. They say the Somalis was scamming. They were scamming. The biggest scammers of the EBT system is white people, specifically white women. So, but once again, we are living in this place called the United States of America, where, just like you said, if there's any remote example or notion that they are losing advantage, they blame the Black and brown person, and they change the narrative to label them as less than, where they praise the white skinned immigrant as adding to the society, when it's the Black and brown person. The narrative is they're taking away from the country. Now, let me preface everything I'm saying is this. Even though I see that, I'm going to say this. Even with all that being said, they never support Black American causes. But when they're in distress, when they have a problem, when they're getting detained, when ICE is running up in their house, now they want Black Americans to come to their
support
defense.
them.
They want them to run on the sidelines and hold picket when ICE is gunning them down, stuff like that. So even though I know that this immigration is all about racism, at some point in time, sometimes I say, but they bring it upon themselves because of who they align with and who they fail to unify with. That's my TED talk.
Like even with the say this, even with the Black Lives Matter, nobody was trying to support that but us. So you know, I know this is kind of different from far as like the other stuff, but I'm saying like what he just said, like go back to what he just said, like we didn't get no support with certain movements, but when like the reparation and all that stuff and the things going on with them, they went outside, you know, on the election.
So I'm gonna say this, and I think this is a major reason why we have the biggest outrage. Now think about it. When you go into the corner store, right, or the Home Depot, or the restaurants, right, who do you see? Or the McDonald's, the Popeyes, Latinos,
Spanish culture,
exactly,
right?
So they know statistics. They're not stupid. They know the numbers, right? They know that the Latino population, Latino/Hispanic population, has overtaken the Black population in this country, and is growing. Not even including the ones that's coming in, you know, or sneaking in or whatever. They're growing while they're here. But yeah, so if you look at a lot of the restaurant industry, the home improvement industry, look who's working on those as flaggers, or who's working on those highways, right? Who's out there at the farms? There's a lot of Latinos there. They know the numbers. So I think automatically they fear that their numbers are going to dwindle when it comes down to it. And then add in the fact that, you know, little things that trigger them, like the when you call customer service and they ask, do you want it in Spanish or you want it in English? You go to the ATM machine. If it's, you know, you got to choose Spanish, English, or French or whatever. The French part don't bother because who speaks French, right? So I think because there's such a big and growing population, that is what they fear, and they fear, you know, losing that superiority. And if you look at even in politics, you look at you know, some of the Latino people who are now taking some of those congressional seats and having a voice. I think that has a lot to do with it. But do you think opposing illegal, you know, some people oppose illegal immigration. So should that be automatically an indicator or evidence of xenophobia?
Xenophobia?
Yeah. Xenophobia is when you have a fear or bias against people who are immigrants. As what's going on right now in South Africa. But do you think opposing, like if you have a strong opinion or stance against illegal immigration, does that automatically show that's evidence of xenophobia?
I do.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead.
All right, we have one that says yes and one that says no. Dimitri, why do you say no?
Because it's already kind of like expected. Yeah, that's how I look at it.
Okay, so you say no because it's expected. Paul, you said yes because of what?
I said yes because once again, let's go back to what you said about the fear. They fear losing representation. They fear losing the numbers are dwindling. Not only that, not only are their numbers dwindling, they're being eradicated because when other cultures are in here, now they're intermingling interracial relationships with their white women. Now they fear that their population is going to be, well, there was a study that said that, and I don't know how many years, but the white population will virtually be non-existent.
Right. Yeah.
So they're trying to prolong that as long as possible, and they're going to do any and everything, use every measure to derail or diminish that in any way possible.
Well, all right, I'm agree with both of you on this one, right? So because it's not a easy answer to this. What you said and what we said earlier is 100% true. You know, you're gonna have a large amount of them being xenophobes because they fear losing that power. They fear losing that numbers, and numbers is basically power, right? Pretty much in here in the U.S. Or that's the perception that we have. But in reality, is the numbers is money. But to what Dimitri said, I don't think anybody who has a strong stance against illegal immigration is automatically a xenophobe, because one, some people have the thought that, you know, if you're going to come here, you know, do it legally. I mean, I don't have a problem with you coming here, but do it legally. And also, if you're letting everybody else come in here illegally and then legitimizing them, what about my people who can't come over here because they're not a border country?
Can I address that statement?
Absolutely.
You're right. But think about this. Let's look at legal immigration. Look at all the legal immigrants that was doing it right, that was going through all the required process, that were doing everything. Guess what's going on? Guess what happened to them? They were getting arrested at their immigration hearing.
Yeah.
They were going through getting that paperwork done. They were getting snatched up and getting. So they get there. Oh, we got to talk to you about something. They cancel the immigration hearing. So all levels of government were in cahoots to detain immigrants who were so-called doing it the right way. So to me, I don't see no difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. All I see is that if you're black and brown and you're not, and they consider you a quote unquote not legal U.S. citizen, all deals are all. You're a target.
Let me add on to what you just said as well. You mentioned the courts.
Yeah.
legally, technically, once they get into that process with the courts,
Yeah.
they're legal. Even if it's temporary, they're
Right.
legal.
Right.
And obviously, it's been shown that they don't care about that. They're going to snatch them up because, and we're going to talk about that later about why that happens and who's at fault for that. But I'm gonna start some early today. Give me a word of the day. I'm gonna start mixing this up. Give me a word of the day.
Detained.
Detained. Okay. The word of the day for this part 1 of this episode is detained. Do you guys know the difference between patriotism and nationalism? Anybody? Okay.
I do, but I think it'd be good to explain it.
Okay.
Brian. But one thing I would like to say, I found out something like through people I work with and on the news. When they were sending a lot of these so-called illegal people back, rounding them up, do you know that had something to do with him saying the crime is down? They're fudging the numbers, but they're picking up people who are illegal and trying to say that they were the ones doing the crime. That's why everybody they pick up, they're murderers, they're rapists, they're doing all of these crimes. Everybody they pick up, they're labeling them with these titles. And then they try to say this is the safest this country has been since 1900. And they put out these the weekend warriors
Right.
to walk the subways and the federal buildings to make it look like they're bringing crime down.
Right.
Crime is the same, if not a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to that's an excuse to send them back and to fudge the numbers. Put the crime on the legal people that are going back and grabbing the wrong people, and to say that they're, label them the wrong way. That goes hand in hand. And they talked about it on the news, but there were some people at my job was talking about it too, saying how, they all coincide. They're just all around crooked, this whole cabinet.
Well, I'm gonna tell you some of the things that they'll say that I've seen on debates and social media and stuff like that. Right, when it comes to that, because originally, what was the focus? We're not talking about pre-Trump. We're talking about during Trump when he came in there and they wanted to ramp up he had this huge number that they wanted to give for deportation, right? So he said, well, we're gonna go and get the murderers, the rapists, all the criminals. We're gonna go with them first, blah blah blah, because they know statistically it was impossible for them to go get everybody who is illegal, quote unquote, in this country. So that was the thing, just to calm people down, say, oh, we have a right to this. We're gonna get those out because we're gonna try to make you safe. So here's their argument. They said, well, if you're in this country illegally, you committed a crime. If you came across this border without permission, or you stayed longer than you're supposed to, you committed a crime, right? So like Mark said, the numbers game and the wordplay, right? But we know what it is. So the reason why I'm gonna ask you this question about if you know the difference between patriotism and nationalism, because a lot of times there's a stigma to that. We love being patriots, right? We love being patriots. But then when you say nationalism, there's a stigma to that. So I'm gonna tell you the difference. And I'm reading this I did a little research, whatever. So patriotism is a feeling of attachment and devotion to one's country, rooted in shared values, civic responsibility, and the desire to improve the nation. It encourages citizens to celebrate national achievements, respect cultural heritage, and critically engage with societal issues to strengthen the country without comparing it to others. Patriots embrace diversity, uphold democratic principles, and see criticism as a tool for improvement. That was my argument with some of my former co-workers, right? Nationalism, in contrast, is a political ideology that prioritizes the nation above all else, often emphasizing cultural unity, historical identity, and language. Not a problem. That's not a big problem. But here, let me go on. It can foster a sense of superiority over other nations. That's the problematic part. They demand conformity. Or if you want to come here, you need to conform to the way we do it over here. And they discourage dissent. Nationalists may view loyalty as unquestionable or unquestioning allegiance, sometimes leading to exclusion, xenophobia, or conflict with other nations. That is the problem. So I asked that question because in this country, we always hear one group of people say, well, I'm a patriot and you're not patriotic, blah, 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 blah. Then you have other side will say, oh, they're just they're white national. Let me throw that on there. The white nationalists, right? So here we are in a country that came over here with Europeans came over here from, Ireland, England, France, Germany, Italy, right? And they all considered themselves different because they were different. There was no real white race at that time, right? So now when you have white nationalism, you basically grouped everybody due to their skin color. We're from Europe and you're not. And if we're from Europe, this is our country. And when you come here from other countries, you need to conform to European standards. Okay. So that's where the problem comes in. And I think a lot of people don't know, or they don't know how to differentiate. You can call them out. You see them on social media and all this, trying to be patriotic and all that type of stuff. But patriots promote diversity. Patriots criticize the government, to make it better. Nationalists believe it's our way or the highway. If you don't like it, we created everything. Like one of the senators said from Iowa, I forgot his name. He said that in Philly during the parade. They believe that we created everything. And when I say we, the American white.
Yes.
Right. So that is the difference. And I think people need to know that so they can stop, calling themselves patriots, and call it what it is.
When you say it like that, second half of the definition sounds like America.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We got Wayne Crespo in the house. I see him. He's on the road.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I think that was that's kind of ironic, and we've seen it, especially in certain professions. And I'm gonna call my profession out particularly. They always want to say, let's be patriot. And let me say our profession, because we was military as well, right? So former military vets, police officers, firemen, all that type of stuff, whatever. You got to conform. We're better than you. Go in there and attack Iran, and the problem we had with Iran is because they did this, and this. Have no historical basis for it, right?
Nope.
And the historical basis that they do have is false, right? So I think that is one of the problems when you talk about immigration policy and all of the type of stuff, because they don't know the difference. Once they realize, hey, some people embrace that, like Stephen Miller. You guys know who that is, right? He knows he's a white nationalist. He's proud to be a white nationalist. But the problem with this country is they're so scared to call it as it is. If you believe a certain thing, then say who you are. Don't try to sugarcoat it. Say who you are.
Let's look at the historical context of this country, right? So we're sitting here talking about immigration and immigration policy, right? And then we're talking about patriotism versus nationalism. We are talking about a country who came over to a land that was not theirs, took over the land from indigenous people. Then, by the way,
change the name. Don't forget, change the name.
Change the name, yeah. Oh, and by the way, we went to the Caribbean nations, went there, and enslaved the people there.
Change the name again. Change the name again.
Then on top of that, we said that we had the God-given Christian right and authority to go to another country that's not ours, not our business, and go in there and call ourselves civilized or getting them right or getting them straight. So all through these years, we've been going to other countries. We didn't We didn't have no respect for their immigration borders. We didn't have no respect for their cultural boundaries. We went to all these countries and we imposed this bullshit American nationalism, just like Brian said.
Would you
Either
would you
you
call,
go on,
wait a minute? I have a question for you. Would you call it nationalism or would you call it something else?
I call it was I forgot what was the term.
Wayne, jump in there.
Yeah.
It was,
Not the icing on his cake would be the
manifest
fact that
destiny. Manifest destiny. That's what it was called.
That's what it was called. But what is it? What is the ideology? That was a political thing. But what was the
conquering? We were conquerors,
Yes.
conquistadors.
Mhm.
Look, we invaded countries. Not only did we invade America, right? But we turned around and created a legal system in which you couldn't do the same thing to the people who invaded and who took over the country. You couldn't do the same thing to them that they did to the country.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that was going to lead me to what I was about to say. I'm sorry. Did you finish what your part was, Paul?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
I was just looking at the audacity.
We talked about I got into this conversation, not even a conversation, it was an online debate, right? This guy said something about Iran. We need to go in there and they're doing this, and this, whatever their issue is. They want to go in there and it's our job to regime change, to change who's in charge of them, right? So getting back to the whole the white nationalist thought or the white supremacist thought, that's the term I was looking for. I'm talking about the country and their policies. We wouldn't allow another country to come in here and arrest our politicians for war crimes. But yet, in that same note, you will go in there and invade Venezuela, a sovereign nation, and arrest their president, right? Who does that? And the whole ideology of Americans here, we think that's okay, that we can go in all these other countries and arrest their heads of state. But we don't even want to be a part of the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Go ahead, Wayne.
Which is a form of war crime. They're not conforming to Geneva Conventions or United Nations.
Exactly.
By the way.
Exactly. Oh, we could go on a lot on how we talk about justice and we go in there. We, as in the U.S. and their policy, go in there and attack fishing vessels in the Caribbean.
Yes.
Right.
See, back in our history, Theodore Roosevelt had created a statement. He said, one of them says, "Speak softly, carry a big stick." Right.
Right.
What he's saying was give justification to saying American sovereignty rules everything. That the what we do is what we do. The consequences of crime don't apply to us because we can go to your country and we can go in there and take what we want or invade it or do what we want because we the United States, because we the sovereign country. That's the most white supremacist mindset ideology. That's where it really started taking off when he pushed that ideology that America, and when I say America, I'm not talking about America, the melting pot.
I'm talking about
the
government.
The government that we can go to your country. Who's in charge? What y'all got going on? If we think it's not in our best interest for what you got going on to be played out, we're gonna go ahead. We either gonna change the situation by creating rebellion, because we go in there, we create these problems. Or if your leader do not comply with us or work and step with us, we're gonna remove him or we're gonna get him assassinated.
Absolutely. And it's
that's called the United States of America. That's what we call the United States of America.
One of the biggest terrorists. And I'm gonna say this. I don't want to say that to be inflammatory, But if you look at the history, the facts, we have done that all over the world. Going back to Iran, since Iran's the top topic, when they say, well, they hate us, they're trying to get these weapons, they're trying to do X, Y, Z, and it said, we have to go in there and change their leadership. What right do you have to change their leadership? What right do you have to say they can't defend themselves by seeking nuclear weapons, right? So I took the speak softly and carry a big stick was that to be powerful, but don't be, braggadocious about it. Don't be the bully. When you have to show that you have that stick, you use that stick. But we're, and I hate to say it, because I still love this country because it's the country that I was born in. My family's been here for over 200 some odd years or more. But, you got to call it as it is. We have been the biggest terrorists on the world stage. We have been the imperialists to this day. We have assassinated world leaders. We have, funded coup d'etats for other countries. We do put in foreign policy that's unfair, criticize others, sanction others when we don't like what they do, right? That is the biggest bully, the biggest terrorist on the block. So, but getting back to the history of things, has America historically favored immigrants from Europe over, and I'm gonna throw a stat in there too, from Europe over immigrants from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Historically, have they favored Europeans?
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Here's a
I'm
question.
laughing. I'm laughing.
Like, was that a question?
Yeah, like.
All right. So, all right. The proof. All right. So back in the 1800s, when Africans here in America who were born and raised, been here for generations, and when they were supposed to get their, I don't like to use the term 40 acres and a mule because that actually only applied to a small select group, but
Yes.
all this land that they was giving away, all this
Yes.
land, they invited immigrants from Europe,
Yes.
the Irish, everybody from Europe to come over and take all this freed land instead of giving it to the freed Africans who built this country. The economic powerhouse that this country was built on slave labor, right? So you're looking at that. You're looking at the huge boats that came from Germany, that came from Poland, that came from Italy, that came from Ireland, that came from the UK. All these things, Spain, right into New York Harbor, right? So you can track that back from the 1700s all the way to the early 1900s. Now, let me throw a stat in. Can we all agree that they've traditionally favored Europeans?
Yes.
All right, so let me give you a stat. The majority of immigrants to the United States today come from Asia and North America, with Asia slightly leading in recent years. But the stat goes, let's go back to 2022. Nearly 43% of new authorized immigrants to the U.S. arrived from Asia, making it the largest source continent, followed by North America at 29%. Now, North America, we're looking at Mexico and Canada, but obviously we know where they're coming from. Europe, only 14%. All right. So I'll tell you what hasn't changed. Let's throw the numbers down there. Asia at 43%, North America at 29%, Europe at 14%, South America just over 7%. Where's Africa?
Yeah.
At the bottom, 6%. And I'm not going to count Oceania because that's too small, but 6%. 6%. Right? Okay. So the countries of origin include Mexico, which alone accounted for 10 million immigrants historically and remains the largest single country source, followed by India and China. And obviously, going back in the day, they brought the Chinese over because they wanted the Chinese to help build the railroads and stuff like that
Yeah.
and then they wanted them to leave. Go figure that. So it has been a shift in the number of immigrants from where they came from, but now it's the problem because when you invited all those European countries, the Italians, the Germans, the French, the Irish, the Indians, I mean not the Indians, the English, the Norwegians or the Scandinavians, right? Now that most of these people are coming from China, Asia, India, obviously when you say Asia, you know where they're coming from. You could tell. India and Pakistan, right?
Yes.
So now there's a problem. Now they fear losing that power, fear the new culture that's coming in, right? Oh, they control all the convenience stores. Oh, they control all the Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, they control all the little hotels, which, on his face looks like it's true, right? But it wasn't a problem when the Irish owned, whatever they owned, and the Italians owned everything,
Or the Polish.
and compare. Who were the biggest criminals back then?
The Italian.
The Italians.
The Irish.
And the Irish, exactly. And surprisingly enough, the Jewish people.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So hypocrisy is the one theme that goes through American history from its inception all the way to the very end. So with those stats, it kind of it tells you what the situation is, and it's fear. If immigration is only about legality, and that's what some people say, this is their big argument, it's about what's illegal and what's not. Why do debates often focus on specific ethnic groups? Do we have to say it?
Because you already know.
Wait, repeat the question. Repeat the question again.
Question was, if immigration, they say, this is one of their arguments, they say if immigration is only about legality, whether they say they don't have a problem with people coming here legally, they have a problem with people coming in here illegally. So why do the debates often focus on specific ethnic groups? The Haitians, the Mexicans,
Right.
and if you're stupid enough, the Puerto Ricans,
Somalia.
even though they're U.S. citizens, right? This is what they say. I know Wayne wanted to jump in there with.
Yeah. Well, basically, they feel like it's a shift in power, but to go deeper into that question, a lot of it is based around political ideology. They feel as though these people come and get citizenship, and they would take the usual the WASP out of the political power. They would take the political power out of their hands.
And that's what's been happening, and they don't like it.
Right. Exactly.
Also,
which is reason. Hold on, real quick to end it, to land my plane. Which is the reason why they just gerrymandered the new voting districts. They redid all the voting districts. In
a whole huge violation of the Voting Rights Act. They basically gutted it.
Correct.
And intentional. Like they made no mistake. That's the difference between the past and now. Of course they did it intentionally and out in the open. Early U.S. history, mid history, they kind of implemented stuff, reconstruction, the whole nine. Now they're back to, guess what? We got a stacked Supreme Court, and they're letting us do whatever we want, and we're going to do it because we can do it.
So look, if I'm from Florida, if South Florida, they knew that this would be a problem. The reason why they concentrate on immigration so much is because the immigrants that came in, they didn't just stay in one concentrated area. They spread it out. So they didn't have enough time to catch up with them by rigging the voting areas and changing up the voting areas. By the time they tried to catch up, the Cubans that came from the islands had already spread it out. They had already been anchored in the different communities, and it affected a huge. So if you notice, Martinez, that was in the era when Martinez and all those came along as governor in Florida. It was a huge change in the way they voted in the South, especially in Florida.
And it was ironic though. speaking of Florida, right? For some odd reason, the Cubans seem to not think they're in that same boat of y'all need to get out until
Not at
until
all.
until
Not at all.
recently. Until recently, we love you, Mr. Trump. We love
Right.
you. Right.
Right. We will vote down no Trump. Yeah. As soon as he got in the office, it wasn't no more singing.
Yeah.
No more remixes.
The Venezuelans, yes. So,
Yes.
all right. Question for you. Now, this is more like politics. This is an opinion based anything, whatever, right? Are politicians exploiting immigration fears to win elections?
Absolutely.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, I must agree
They
with
cater
that.
to immigrants during the elections, and they overlook them right after.
Absolutely.
Shortly after.
Absolutely.
But to Leonard's to what he just said, I think they're so wide open now and so blatantly outright disrespectful now that they're not even doing that anymore. They're not even
Right.
catering to you anymore.
Right. Which
no.
is
They're just gonna change the rules of the game, which is what he was just talking about.
right.
The voting rights and the voting laws. They're gonna change the rules of the game and make it so basically change the language of it. In
They'll
so
just
many words. So that
disenfranchise you.
there you go.
Yeah.
So you can't even, you have no place here, really.
So when you talk about the politicians, right? They'll go in there and it's because they still have to account for you when it comes to the governorship, which is different because the governorship is a popular vote and for the whole state. So they will feed you little crumbs on there to get you to think that you're not going to be in that boat getting sent back, right? But again, like you said, as soon as the election's over, guess what? They let you know you're in that boat. Your name is
that boat get real big.
big and heavy. Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what they do is they target you as to make you feel comfortable. Hey, we're only going after like the criminals and the bad guys and things like that. Soon as they get their vote,
You become the
categorize
criminal.
y'all all one and the same.
They'll make you the bad guy now. You'll turn into the face of the bad guy.
Oh, absolutely. And that's how they do it. That is the strategy.
Yeah, and then one other thing I wanted to piggyback off of when we were talking about the difference between who they target. If it was legal about legality, why are we talking about race? Because look at who's driving these immigration policies. It is white Christian nationalists who believe in yes, and they feel like now when you bring in other cultures or bring in other immigrants, they fear the dilution of the American white family structure. Now, you know what I'm saying without saying it. Listen, I'm just saying. Our black culture is
their numbers are dwindling.
Yeah, but if you look at
natural causes.
That's why. Go ahead, Paul. My bad.
If you look at everything on TV, look at entertainment, look at sports, look at just general fashion, right? Nothing is not influenced by black culture. So when you see black culture, you see, oh man, that's cool. That's this, that. Look at these black people bodies, and they're so physical, strong, overpowering, things like that. Listen, they fear, just like Leonard said, we all know that their numbers are dwindling. But this dwindling is being diluted because those, I'm gonna call it white women, they want brothers. And the brothers is they having kids with these white women, and the white population is being eliminated.
And that's where these laws come in. about the
Yes.
abortion, about the amount of
Yes.
kids you should be able to have,
Mm.
and the right of treatment that you're gonna get with some of these
Exactly.
like snaps and stuff like that. A lot of this stuff is to preserve. They're trying to preserve their life. That's it. That's
Yes.
Yo,
it, and their status.
Go ahead, Wayne.
also, the number one reason hip hop has been targeted, they want youth to be out in the front, is because hip hop was the guiding force in music and entertainment and sports, were the guiding forces of our culture. So our icons came out of majority of our icons came out of that area, and that's
60s
what
and
led
70s.
our culture to control the world. They
Yep.
shut down Kaepernick and they silenced him. Hip hop has been ran by kids. They don't even want adults. They no longer do we have the Public Enemies, the X-Clans, the Native Tongues,
Right.
and people like that.
Yes.
That's
a good
over.
point.
They gave them 360 deals and got rid of them. Now they get the kids 360 deals to sell drugs, sex, and violence. Okay.
But you know what else
Then
they doing?
also, hold on. Also, on top of that, they push the older guys that they do push to the forefront. I'm not gonna say any names. Selling out
Jay-Z?
Yankee Stadium. Those are the
Yes,
guys that
Jay-Z.
sell out the culture. Those
Yep.
are guys who sell out the culture. That's the guys who they want to the forefront. By taking out, and then in the movie industry, they don't even use black men from America anymore. Long gone the Denzel Washingtons,
Yeah.
long
Yes.
gone the Samuel
They're from
Jacksons.
England.
They got guys from England that look like us, that don't even sound like us when they regularly talk. They use a black voice when they're doing
Yes.
a movie, but when you hear them do an interview outside of a movie, they sound like Mr. Pibb or somebody from over there in England.
But you know what? Hold on. Hey,
I didn't know who you talk about.
another thing they do too, that you almost touched on. Remember you said the 360 deals and they get them out of there? Another
Yeah.
thing they do too is they get the young ones who are talented, don't even understand how much talent they have or how much of a voice they have. They give them these deals, they put insurance policies on them and let them kill
Right.
themselves.
Exactly.
We don't talk about that. But then you got some who, Lil Baby, Lizzo, when they get older and they start realizing how powerful they are. Lizzo's the wrong example, but Lil Baby, 21 Savage, when they get older, start realizing how powerful they are, and they're not signing these things. They get their own record labels and start changing up what they're saying in the rap. They find ways or reasons to cancel them. Let you know that
yeah.
21 Savage is not really from here. He came here
The
as
Baby.
a 6-year-old from England. The baby,
The
they
Baby.
bring up his past. He was gambling. He was a drug dealer and all this other stuff. They try to dirty their name when they're not doing, their bidding.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
if you look
yeah.
at it, you look at all aspects of black culture and influence. Not only are they trying to change it, they're trying to erase it and take it over. And it start with the schools. They don't want to teach black history. That's the first thing. So you don't know your history. You don't know what you've accomplished. You don't know what you can accomplish, right? So the default is always everything great was created by the white man. And like I said, I'm going to say this because there was that politician that said it right out of his mouth, right on TV at a parade. He had a moment of honesty and said, "We create everything. Everything in this nation is good. When you guys touch it, basically goes to, whatever." So, but you guys stay tuned for part 2 of Is U.S. Immigration Policy About Security or Racism and Xenophobia? Make sure you subscribe to Unfiltered with Psycho 4081. Listen to the full episode and join the debate. Visit psycho4081.com to subscribe. Check out our blogs. Vote in our audience poll. So that every blog has not everyone, but most of the blogs have a poll at the end. And send us your take on the subject matter. The most thought-provoking responses can be featured in future episodes. And I do have a poll out there on WhatsApp. So when we get to episode 3, I'm going to bring up that poll and then discuss the poll and why people feel a certain way. So stay tuned for part 2.
Thank y'all for tuning into another episode of Unfiltered with Psycho 4081. Big respect to our guests for keeping it real, and love to every listener rocking with us week after week. This conversation ain't over yet. Stay locked in for the next episode coming soon. Until next time, keep it unfiltered with Psycho 4081. Bye.